Recently, a woman wrote me and she was terrified. She was concerned about her health and she shared that she found something hard around her cervix. And she was worried because she was imagining that this might be cancer. And she was really, really stressed. She shared with me that she has 2 young children and she was waiting for her appointment with a gynecologist. And basically she, wanted to hear some thoughts of me, what this might mean. But she was really worried that this is some sort of cancer and she might die. It was not as bad, and I will tell you what it was. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. What she found inside her vagina, very deep inside her vagina, was no cancer or that like. It was her scar tissue. I told you she had 2 children, and apparently during childbirth she had some tears inside her vagina, and those tears, when they grow back together, the scar tissue is always there and it's a little bit hard when you touch it. And most women, they don't observe their vaginas and they do not touch their vaginas inside as we should. I think it's very wise to, get connected what we have and get connected both visually as well as to feel our vagina on the inside. And this woman, later on, when she found out what bothered her, she asked me to share this information so that many more women will get the context and they won't be as afraid as she was for a couple of days waiting to find out what she found in her vagina. Therefore, in this video, I would like to share some information on scar tissue and scar tissue healing. Because as I find, the information on scar tissue and its consequences is very limited. Often we think about scar tissue just as a topic which is the visual thing, like scars which may make us more ugly or whatsoever. But the scar tissue is also something which can have consequences for our physical well-being and our emotional well-being, because there is both components to the scar tissue. First of all, the scar tissue may bring numbness, or some scars, they keep being painful. I heard quite a few women sharing they had pain during intercourse even 1, 2 or more years after childbirth due to the scar tissue. And other scar tissue are just numb. There is no feeling. What is not known as well, that this numbness may grow. So let's say you have a scar in your vagina, either on the outside or inside your vagina, or somewhere else in your body, let's say your belly, and I will come to that a little bit later. And so there is numbness, and the numbness is not just the scar itself, the numbness is around your scar tissue, and the numbness has the tendency to grow, which means that, for example, if you have scar tissue in your vagina may be more and more numb, less sensitive to touch, which results in having less feelings during intercourse, or having unwanted feelings like feeling irritated and just not wanting to have sex with your partner. And this is the emotional part. I will come to that as well. The physical part is also the fact that the scar tissue can cause other consequences in our body. For example, if we have scar tissue in our belly, we may suffer headaches some time after that. Maybe after a few weeks or months, we may think, oh, I have these headaches. And this is actually due to the fact that the scar tissue is creating more tension in our body, and this tension just grows, beyond that place. So I met people having headaches, I met other people who had pain in their leg, but the leg was not the problem. It was the scar tissue in the belly which caused the leg pain. So this is the physical consequences. And then secondly, there are also emotional consequences, which is usually the feeling which is bind together to the time when we got this scar tissue. Quite often there is a lot of fear because at times we might be afraid to lose our own life, for example, or we go through some really painful situation which is together with the scar tissue. And this emotion mostly remained unexpressed or only expressed partially. Quite often when we have some scar tissue in our belly, during the time we got the scar tissue, we were asleep. We had anesthetics, so we didn't feel anything. So we couldn't feel and express any emotion, right? But when we go to scar tissue healing, which is basically paying attention to the scar tissue, stroking it, massaging it, or also using heart pressure and quite intense touch in those places, there is emotion coming up. And usually this emotion is what remained unexpressed. For example, scar tissue in the belly, let's say a C-section. Women who go through scar tissue healing with the C-section, and it's not just the scar tissue which is on the surface, but there is 2 more layers of scar tissue underneath. There is such a feeling of rage, and this woman, she might have the urge to, kick and scream and fight like she would be fighting for her own life. Basically, this is what you would do if there would be someone coming with a knife and you just want to, kick that person away. So this is oftentimes the reaction in the body when we start the scar tissue healing in a conscious way, because this old feeling is activated. And I say old because sometimes this can be 10 or 20 or more years old, but there is still memory in our body. So as we touch the body and the scar tissue consciously, even if it's a 20-year-old scar tissue, there is still emotional response, and this emotion may be quite intense, especially when the circumstances of the scar tissue begin where, let's say, dramatic, or it was really a topic of life and death, or it was some severe injury and so on. It may sound terrifying, but when we allow ourselves to feel and express the emotion, it means we let go of that. We can experience a huge relief and so much energy which comes to our body. It's amazing. It can be really, really strong what you can experience thanks to scar tissue healing, how much relief there can be. So usually the immediate consequence is relief and new energy which comes up. Temporarily there may be loss of energy because the body and the emotional system are doing a lot of work, but then there is release and more energy, because more energy can flow through your body. I think this is very important topic and everyone should know. And unfortunately, only sometimes when you are leaving the hospital after some, major operation and you have scar tissue, oftentimes they don't tell you about these consequences of scar tissue. If you're lucky, you will learn about the physical part, and they will tell you that you should massage your scar tissue so it will heal better. You don't massage it immediately, but after it heals, from this very fragile state, you should massage it. And you can massage it if it's on the surface. You can also massage it if it's underneath the first layer of your belly, let's say. Then you just massage it by, imagining you are touching more deeply in your belly, and you can still feel there is some tension, there is some hard, things you can touch. And you can also massage the scar tissue inside your vagina, as long as you can reach inside, you can feel it. If you have some scar tissue in your vagina and you will touch your vagina on the inside, you may feel it's harder. And to help the scar tissue healing, you may want to use castor oil, which helps to soften the scar tissue. And you can use the castor oil also inside your vagina by taking a piece of cloth and putting the oil on it and inserting it inside, because this oil will really help to soften. So this is the physical part. And this should go on for a period of time. So it's not done by, doing it just once, but you continue massaging, as often as you can. And the second is the emotional part, which is often not recognized, and nobody puts a name on it. But basically what happens, as soon as you connect consciously with your scar tissue, and with consciously, I mean you allow yourself to feel what you feel, you may have all kinds of emotions you would prefer not to have. There may be sadness, there may be anger, there may be frustration, all of that, and mix. Usually it's a mixture of sadness and anger. And so those are basically unwanted emotions we may try to suppress, especially because we don't understand why we have it. Yes, like I feel this and there is no reason for feeling it, so I just don't want to have it. I don't want to bother my life, myself, my partner, and so on. But there is no way around. So if you have emotions coming up, the best way or the best thing you can do is that you allow these feelings to be felt and expressed. If there is tears, you just cry. If there is rage, you cry. And this may be quite intense, depending on the scar tissue and the event. So it's also very good to get support. And there are people who specialize in scar tissue healing. The physical level can be covered by a physiotherapist. And there are also professionals who can work with the more intimate scar tissue and also with the emotional part. Because this, I think, is so important, and oftentimes it's not addressed. But if you allow yourself to feel and express your emotion, you can make your scar tissue healing so much faster and so much more effective. So emotions are to be felt and expressed through your body, through your motion, through your sound, whatever, yes. And this person who is assisting you and who is the professional in scar tissue healing, ideally they should know about this emotional dynamics as well, and they should support you to, be free to express whatever you feel and not be afraid of the intensity of emotion. and the emotion can be quite intense, really. And those people are trained. I train these people as well, and in our massage space in Prague, it's educational, and it's a space for massage and education in how you experience your body, yourself, and your intimacy. We do have trained therapists who can work with the scar tissue as well, so they can be your guides. And there's more people around the world who are able to do this type of work. Usually you need a series of sessions. It's not done by just one session. And also you can learn the approach, and ideally you have someone who would work with you later on, or you can work with yourself. But initially it's really, really helpful to have a professional by your side. First, that you can learn the technique, the approach technically, but secondly, that he or she are by your side and can help you through the intense emotion. Scar tissue in the belly, for example, or anywhere else, when it's not minor, it can make you feel like, I don't own this part of body anymore. It's not even mine. And with the scar tissue healing, you can get back the sense of, wow, this is my part of body. I can feel my belly again. I can feel my leg again or my arm again. And really you can do this many years after the accident or operation or whatsoever. I hope this video was helpful for you. I know this is information which is not shared so frequently, and if you are inspired, really, get someone to work with you, or if you have no one, just the first step would be to get in touch with your scar tissue consciously. Maybe your natural tendency is to avoid it, to not look at it, not touch it, nobody should see it. But the first step is to really get confronted, to see it, to touch it, to stroke it, and pay attention, and touch it with love and attention. When you do it, when you look at the scar tissue, when you touch it lovingly with attention, this may be a source of emotion because maybe just by me talking, you may already have tears in your eyes. And it's important to allow it. You don't need to do more, just allow it and allow yourself to be relieved by, expressing what you are feeling. The emotions are to be felt and expressed. You don't need to think about them, you don't need to analyze them, you don't need to try not to have them, because this is so exhausting and it's a lost fight. Just feel, express, and let go. Go with the flow, because at some point there will be no more tears or no more anger or no more shame, whatever, right? So allow yourself this emotional healing, which is oftentimes connected to the scar tissue, and then also address the physical part, because you can, to a large extent, soften your scar tissue, and you can lessen the negative impact it has on your sensitivity and on the well-being of the rest of your body. If you have scar tissue you are dealing with, I wish you the best possible healing outcome. I also want to mention that if you have scar tissue in your belly and in your vagina, this usually will affect your sexuality a lot. You may be disturbed by your feelings, you may want to avoid intimate contact, or you may be just experiencing nothing or not much, or not being interested because of the numbness. And it's good to know that if you start the scar tissue healing, there will be more sensitivity in your belly and in your vagina. If you like this video and think it could help more people, please share it, because I know this information usually is not shared so frequently. It's also not so much spoken about, especially when it's about the consequences which scar tissue may have for our sexuality. And I hope this video will help as many people as possible around the world.